It's time now for the best hour in MMA and combat sports, the Boomtown Pod. Join your hosts Andrew Kahn and Cole Smith as they break down the latest cards, the biggest news, and so much more. Now it's time for the Boomtown Pod.
That is right. It is another edition of the Boomtown Pod, all things MMA. I am your host, Andrew Sutton, of course, joined by the one and only Cole Smith. Cole, how you doing, brother?
Good, man. It's been a while. You've been busy. So, yeah, it's been a long time. How you doing?
When I tell you I'm going to enjoy this next little break that we're going to have, I'm telling you it's going to be good because, as you stated, man, it's been a busy run. I was traveling the country doing PAWFC stuff out in Calgary, which was amazing. We'll get into that a little bit later. Man, just busy. But you've also been busy.
Yeah, I've been I've been cutting right now. I'm in the middle of a weight cut.
That sucks.
It's not great, but supposed to be fighting Saturday. My opponent just pulled out, so I'm trying to get a replacement for Saturday in Edmonton. So fingers crossed that fight doesn't get canceled.
I mean, that's always the worst. I mean, and you can attest to this, and we saw it this weekend when we will discuss weight cuts. We will get into that because it's kind of like a slap in the face. You know, like a guy works so hard to get to the weight that he needs to be, and then all of a sudden a fight gets pulled. What does that do to you mentally?
It's more frustrating than anything. I mean, it's a little bit, I guess it's like a little bit different with amateur boxing. Obviously, there's no money involved. There's no potential of a win bonus, things like that, or like changing the trajectory of your career potentially. So it's a little bit different, but it's still frustrating. This is like the fourth or fifth time it's happened for me. It's nice that I'm not there and finding out. It's nice that I'm home and finding out.
Welcome to the event. Your fight's not happening. Your opponent couldn't do anything about the weight. So congratulations. Thanks for driving 8 hours. Yeah.
Great.
Nonetheless, and before we get more into this, guys, we got to thank our podcast sponsors, as always. Blue Collar Media Group started day one, continuing. Stellar Gear also been there since day one. And Sandman Boxing System jumped in with us in season 2. Of course, we are about 19 episodes deep. That doesn't include lives and all that other kind of stuff that we've done in this season. So this year has been phenomenal. We've continued to grow. We've continued to develop. I mean, we just passed 600 fans on Facebook, over 1,000 people on Twitter, which is awesome. Like I said, we continue to grow and we continue to develop, and it's because of you guys and listening to us ramble about stuff that we're passionate about. So we have to thank you guys for tuning in every week. Well, let's get into this. This is segment 1. This is the week that was, again, sponsored by Stellar Gear. And if you've been living under a rock, holy shit, Batman, what a crazy weekend we got. UFC 279 was the chaos and drama card. That's what I'm calling it. I remember back in the day, they used to have different names for the cards. There would be like UFC 170, Let There Be Blood. And now like UFC 279 is the chaos and drama card. From the pre-fight presser being canceled the first time in UFC history to the weigh-ins and everything in between, Cole, holy shitballs. Let's get into this, starting with that pre-fight presser. Obviously, we know for the first time in UFC history, that's 279 cards plus I don't know how many other fight nights, nothing's been canceled ever in the history of a pre-fight presser until now. Well, backstage, there were rumblings that things might go down. Well, that happened. Khamzat Chimaev kicked Kevin Holland in the chest, which escalated this whole event. After that, Nate Diaz's camp was coming in, and the fucking Diaz bros, they're just like, hey, man, not without us. Like, that's not a party or a brawl without us being in it, so let's fucking throw some water bottles is what happened. And so anyways, a bodyguard saw all this come up. The guy runs up to the stage, tells Dana White. Dana White goes, yeah, man, this ain't happening. Cole, what the fuck?
The crazy thing, I don't know. the crazy thing is that the Diaz camp showed up with 47 people.
That's
Why
a
do you
lot.
need 47 people in the back? And Hamzat's camp was like 30 something. So there's almost 100 people in the back trying to fight each other. That's insane.
Meanwhile, Kevin Holland had 4 guys in his camp. I should mention that. You guys want to talk about real gangsters and shit? Like, I understand it's Nate's last fight, and I understand him having a barrage of friends and camps and people that would be with him. But I couldn't understand for the life of me what the hell Kevin Holland was trying to do with 4 people in his camp. And again, Kamzat has his camp of all these people plus Darren Till, right? Like, they become the heel brothers, as we will get into this a little bit on. But I mean, this was bananas, man. And then we get to the fucking weigh-in the day after. And I remember reaching out to you and to my best insider knowledge. I've got people on the inside too. I might be a small podcast, but I got people on the inside. I was getting texts left, right, and center saying Kamzat's in trouble with weight. And I went, there's no way. Like, this guy's made 170 8 fights in a row. There's no problem that he's going to have here. Now, he is, granted, a monster, big 170er. Like, definitely could fight at heavyweight if he wanted to, or even light heavyweight. That's just how big his frame is. But nonetheless, this guy misses weight by it's not even close. 7.5 pounds. And I'm like, oh, Nate's not going to take this fight. There's no way. Nate's already been trying to. Let's not forget, Dana White was basically trying to say fuck you to the Diaz family by putting him against Kamzat. This was Kamzat's fight, and that guy fumbled the bag. I don't even want to talk about how much money he's lost, because it's got to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars that he lost because of that. After, again, you get a portion. When you're in the main event, you get a portion of the pay-per-view buys, right? And not only that, you're getting fighter pay and all this other stuff in between it. And now you lose it all by missing weight by 7.5 pounds. Cole, acceptable, unacceptable? What do you think here, man?
I think the missing weight is unacceptable, 100%. But on the other side of it, to me, what it sounds like is he wasn't 7.5 over. He was a couple pounds over. The doctor told him to stop cutting, and the doctor was so worried about him, he made him drink water and made him rehydrate before he got on the scale, because he was like hallucinating and stuff, and like puking, and like was like all disoriented, that the doctor made him rehydrate.
It's kind of crazy, because I did read that afterwards, that he was fainting, puking, he could barely stand up. Doctors came upstairs, said, you can't, like, honestly, man, we can't let this happen. And that's the right call by the commission, for sure. You never want to put somebody in danger like that. And I get that it's a tough weight cut. But the other problem that I have with this is that most fighters, and I got to talk to Felicia Spencer about this, and Cyborg, and they were very honest about it. Like, obviously, the weight cut fucking sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a ton of fun. But what they said is you have to be very respectable of your opponent. It's not even your body, it's your opponent, because your opponent is also doing the same thing. It's a mutual respect between both parties. And for Kamzat to do that, I thought he disrespected Nate and the Diaz camp by 1,000%.
Yeah, I agree. It's like you're a professional. You shouldn't be missing weight. That's what you're paid to do, especially in such a, like those guys fight 2, maybe 3 times a year. Their camps are quite long. They have the time to get down. I make weight, and sometimes I find out that my fight's coming up in 2 weeks. So yeah, I totally agree. Be there on weight. Luckily, honestly, I would not have wanted to see what he would have done to Nate anyways.
Dear God, that would have. Oh boy, we'll get into that one for sure coming up very, very shortly. But of course, there was more people that missed weight, and this is the first time in a long time where it seemed like a lot of people are missing weight now. Everybody loves Chris Barnett. He is one of the funnest fighters in the heavyweight division. He's 5'10", but missed weight, 267. It's the first time in UFC heavyweight history that a heavyweight has missed weight. I mean, 265 is very, very lenient. And I mean, you think about the guys who have fought at 265. You got Stipe, you got Francis. Like, I mean, bulldozer of human beings. And this little 5'10" Chris Barnett misses weight, and had to surrender 30% of his purse. From what I understood, and I listened to the John Anik podcast, shout out to one of the best in the business. He was describing that Barnett had a lot of stuff going on in his life. In the last year, his fiance passed away. That can't be easy to begin with. I mean, that's a lot of emotional damage. I mean, having to go through that, I couldn't even imagine. And not even that, just some stuff behind the scenes that we don't really know much about, but he tried his best, didn't make it. He still won the fight after getting his ass handed to him by Collier in the first round. Like, that was, I thought for sure Barnett had a broken jaw. What do you think?
Yeah. Did you see the pictures afterwards?
It looked like he had a stroke, man.
Yeah. And to go back to the weigh-in quick, I just want to say I think that is way more disrespectful.
Yeah.
You know, I understand having stuff going on in your life, but how easy it is for him to cut weight. You know, like me, I'm not even super heavy. I'm like 205, 210 right now. A good workout and I can lose 7 pounds.
Right.
You know, because I have so much water weight, so much, you know, I'm not shredded, you know, I got fat on me. So that guy can lose 20, 30 pounds easily. Yeah,
I was a little blown away because usually what happens, and for those that might not know or follow how weight cut works, if they miss weight, they have an hour. The commission will give you an hour to lose that extra pound or two. And of course, he was 2.5 pounds over. And he just didn't do it. And I was like, that's, you know, a guy who just, I don't know, didn't really seem into the fight at the start of it. And then he wins it, which is incredible in itself, because he took a lot of damn punishment in that first round, which credit to Chris Barnett. The other person who missed weight, which is goddamn mind-blowing because he's the slated, you know, up-and-coming prospect, none other than our own Canadian, Hakeem Dawodu. And he missed weight by 3.5 pounds, man. It's just like, and the crazy part is I saw this guy. He was at the Palace Athena's event 3 weeks ago. And I was like, damn, dude, you look in amazing shape. And one of the conversation pieces was, yeah, man, I'm right on par to make weight. And then I'm watching it and I'm like, bro, you're 3.5 pounds over. And you can tell when people have a bad weight cut because they are absolutely gassed. And when he stepped on that scale, I was like, oh shit. Let's not forget, remember Macy Barber when she lost all that weight and she fell off the scale. And I was like, oh dude, we might be getting an Hakeem situation where he looked famished, man. And he's a big 145er, like big. And so I thought, you know what? Like, he should be okay. Missed weight and lost the fight. Double whammy.
Yeah, that sucks. Did he cut the 3 or did he say no?
Same thing. Sacrifice 30% of his purse. Now, that's the banana part of this card. It seemed like everybody was sacrificing something. We had the gigantic shuffle at the top 3 fights, right? It was like, hey, by the way, and people don't, like, I've been trying to describe this all week to people. It's like, hey, yeah, the fights might not have been of the best quality, but imagine training for somebody for 6 to 8 weeks and then being like, ha, just kidding. Day of, you're facing this guy. And like your whole fucking game plan goes out the window. It's just like Kevin Holland said at the weigh-ins when Joe Rogan was like, do you think this is a good matchup for you? And Kevin Holland just goes, fuck no. Like, hell no, it's not a good matchup for him. But what are you supposed to do? And Kevin Holland's a gangster. He's one of the real gangsters of the UFC and said, you know what? Fuck it. I'll take this fight, man. It doesn't matter. I know I'm not going to win, but shit, throw caution to the wind. Let's have fun, right? So let's get into the card. Diaz versus Ferguson. Was it, this is the tough part for me. Was it 5 years too late or was it everything that you ever wanted, Cole?
I think it was too late. I think Diaz's last maybe 3 or 4 fights, he just doesn't throw like he used to. You know, his pace isn't what it used to be, like it was with I guess like even like Pettis was a good one. He had a high pace, but like Cerrone, you know, that high output, he just doesn't do that anymore, which sucks because it's very frustrating to watch. When he could be like just putting it on guys or at least putting a steady pace on. So it was kind of frustrating for me to watch, to be honest. I am a big Ferguson fan as well, and I thought he was doing real good with the leg kicks. But again, he's just not the same guy as he was either. So it's like it would have been awesome to see them in their peaks, but it was awesome to see them anyways.
I think Anthony Pettis fucked Tony Ferguson's world up. After that fight, and I know it was a war, and I mean, it went either way. Tony lacks that killer instinct, and during this fight, you saw a little bit of it again, and I got a little bit excited about it. Like, obviously, for me, I didn't care who won that fight; it could be either or, and I would have been happy regardless of the outcome. So it's kind of like I never had a favorite going into that fight. When it got announced, even on Friday, I was like, shit, yeah, but like 5 years way too late. I mean, realistically, they're both way past their prime. Diaz, exceptional groundwork. You could tell that he worked for a wrestler, because the second that Tony shot, Tony knew. He's like, even after the fight, he's like, I fucked up. Like, that was so quick that he drew him in that guillotine. And it, for a guy who, not a high amount of output in the fight, Nate was just like, you're going to try this on me, dude? Do you know who I was just training for? Like,
right,
it's kind of bananas. Like, you're beating the shit out of my legs and you're beating the shit out of me. Like, I had Ferguson winning that fight until that point.
Yeah, I had it was very close for me.
It was 3-1 Tony.
I thought, I don't know. It was because the first round was clearly Tony.
Yeah.
I thought the second round Diaz did more.
Yeah.
And in the third round, I would have gave to Tony, because Diaz was doing some weird stuff, like walking away, and like I thought he was gonna quit for a second. I was like, what is he doing? Saying he's not gonna fight?
I thought he was gonna walk out of the cage.
That's what I thought, and I was like, don't do that, man.
Like, I know you want out. I know you want out of that deal.
Yeah.
But like, fight your fight.
That's the problem. I don't think Diaz is out of his prime. I think that he doesn't want to fight anymore, or he doesn't have the love for it, or the killer instinct. So he's just like in there to collect a check, because he's not even tired. He wasn't even close. He didn't even look tired. He didn't look like he was breathing heavy. So it's like he's not obviously putting 100% into each round.
Yeah, and during the event, Joe Rogan actually alluded to that. He's like, man, Luke Rockhold just did this a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, big difference. Luke Rockhold was fucking gassed. There was no 3 years of ring rust on Nate Diaz. As much as he's not a fighter, everybody needs to understand this guy does triathlons for fucking fun. Like his cardio is insane. Both brothers have insane cardio. But I think their passion for the sport, you kind of heard Nate allude to it a little bit at the end during his press conference. And that was an awesome post-fight press conference. If you go watch it, that's some of the most real Nate Diaz you're going to get. And he was just genuine. He's like, even when he won, he's like, I'm not in love with the UFC anymore. He's like, I'm going to go do some other shit, which we found out. And I know he didn't want to name drop it, but he did it at the post-fight anyways. He started his own promotion called Real Fight Incorporated. And I'm fairly certain that that's what his focus is, what it is. I also think he's going to sniff out the weeds of what happens with Jake Paul and Anderson Silva. I think Nate's tired of hearing him being told that he's not better than Jake, because we both know, like, it's not even close if that fight happens. I think Nate Diaz absolutely fucking wipes the floor of Jake Paul. But yeah, I mean, there's different ventures, different business quests for him, and he just didn't seem like he wanted to be there. And again, like you said, in the ring, he was doing some really weird stuff, and I was like, this is a Diaz fight. But I will give Tony a shout out for replicating what Nick did versus Anderson Silva while he laid on the ground and did this. And I damn near died laughing. I was like, holy shit, Tony Ferguson just did the Nick Diaz. And the best part is Nick is 20 feet away. Like, I was just like, there's no way that just happened. But again, it's cool to see two warriors of our generation, for sure, of fighters getting to do, one final bout. I mean, everybody says, well, Tony Ferguson, especially at the end of his, said that he's like in the best shape of his life. And honestly, man, I don't know, dude. Like, I love Tony, but like, we had Sam Elvey on here too. And Sam even said, it's not that he doesn't have the desire to fight anymore, or even that the losses were piling up. It just got to a time where it was like, I'm going to finish out my contract at the UFC. They're allowing me to do that. I'm a fan favorite. And I think by all extensive purposes, that's what this is too. I mean, Tony will probably have one more fight. I hope it's a Legends fight against somebody like Jim Miller or Joe Lozon or just somebody in that caliber, because that run's done for Tony. That ship's way sailed.
It's super unfortunate. I think that's probably why he's not getting cut. Because I think the UFC recognizes that they screwed him. You know, when he was in his prime on an 11-fight win streak, stopping or destroying everybody, and never got the title, never got the real title shot. Obviously, they tried to make it happen a couple of times, but still, you know, when he's at his prime, when he did have a shot and people saw him as the guy to beat Khabib, it never happened, right? So I think this is like we'll let you fight out, just like you said, we'll let you fight out your contract as a I'm sorry kind of thing.
And I hope one day we can get him on here. I mean, I would love to pick Tony Ferguson's brain. I think he's one of the coolest personalities, one of the weirdest dudes to ever step foot in that building. He had the highlight of the pre-fight press conference. He just walked up on stage and said, "Next question." And everybody just started losing it. I thought it was hilarious. I think for Tony, honestly, again, writing's on the wall. That's 5 in a row. I mean, and all 5 of these finishes, Justin Gaethje has just, that was the end of Tony Ferguson. I mean, when he knocked him out cold, and especially, and I remember, I think it was you and I that watched that card together, and Gaethje just walked him off. And it was like, boom. And the shot that punch made, you could see Ferguson's spirit just leave. And I think it's never been the same since. And it's so shitty, because I agree with you. I think the UFC really fucked him over by not giving him Khabib in his prime, when both of them were, you know, they both wanted it. That fight was supposed to happen 4 different times, and it just never came to fruition. And I think Tony Ferguson is on the ride out. It's thanks for doing this. And the UFC knows that they can put Tony on a card. He's still a fan favorite, you know, like he's still that guy that people, it's just like in our, like I said, when we were growing up, the names of fighters that were huge at the time are now, you know, legends, right? I mean, you think about looking behind you got Forrest Griffin, you got Anderson Silva on your wall. You mean like Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, all these other guys, GSP, all the names, you know. Now they're all just like, hey, we set the forefront for the up and coming talent that's coming up, but these guys, they can still sell tickets.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't matter how many times he fights, people are going to pay for it.
And again, I am the biggest, you know, and we're going to get into it. And like, we're huge Anderson Silva fans, and we're going to get into him continuing his progress into another world of history. But yeah, man, it's crazy to see our legends just slowly fade out in front of us. It's I don't want to admit that it's happening, but it is. But so in the co-main event, obviously we had Kevin Holland taking on Khamzat Chimaev, and honestly, if those of you that are watching understand the reference of a heel in wrestling, right? In WWE, you have your good guy and you got your bad guy, right? And everybody boos the heel. Well, shit. Khamzat did that in spectacular fashion in this event. I mean, the UFC officially has their badass, if you will, the guy that everybody loved this. And the crazy thing is, in the flip of a switch, that's how quickly Khamzat went from fan favorite to the most hated dude in the UFC. And it wasn't even close. Like, the fact that this man missed not only the weight by 7.5 pounds, canceling the main event, which a lot of people were excited for, he literally came out and gave that to everybody at the weigh-in, and then said, that's not bad. Huh? Like, you missed weight by 7.5 pounds, and you just told the whole world to go fuck yourself first and foremost. And that 7.5 pounds wasn't all that bad. Like, that's a ton of weight, dude. And so, anyways, he rode this wave, and then the pre-fight the press conference happened, and you're kicking Kevin Holland in the chest, and everybody's like, "What the hell is going on with this guy?" And then he comes out there and just destroys. Like, I mean, holy shit balls. And even Kevin Holland was like, well, that grappling match was fun. Kevin Holland got 0 strikes in 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's like I think I did lose a bit of respect for Chimaev just because of everything that happened. I'm not a big fan of it. You know, man, if he would have just came in and explained what happened, it would have been over. But he yeah, now everybody doesn't like him. But it's still gonna sell, right? He's a maniac. He's a psychopath. So it's still gonna sell. But what he did to Holland, he moves up 15 pounds and then ragdolls that guy. He's still ragdolling people 15 pounds heavier. That's impressive.
Fuck,
Crazy.
actually. It's bananas. I mean, and okay, the other thing I'll mention too, because we've stated it tons in the past about this. Kevin Holland is not a wrestler. Like, I mean,
No.
his kryptonite has always been wrestlers. If you can recall, a few years ago, after he got beat a couple times, Habib was like, "Come to my gym, brother. We train for you." Because again, Kevin Holland's also a very marketable guy. I mean, he's got big wins over some really big names too. Like, I mean, his when he was on the ground and he knocked out Jacare, that was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But Kevin Holland's a badass. He wanted this card to happen. He wanted to get his bag. He knew he was going to get money. And fighting a name like Kamzat, as much as he was a sacrificial lamb, if you will, he knew what he had to do. He had to go out there and try to do it. And I will give him a ton of props. He rolled out of it a couple times. I was like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's very good work from Kevin Holland, who's not really known for elite wrestling. Got up a couple times pretty quickly, and I was like, hey, good for him. But Kamzat, man, just an absolute monster.
He's like a spider monkey or something.
Yeah,
like the way he was just like crawling on him and like it was nuts.
I was like, yo, this guy definitely like trained for some wrestling and has learned to sprawl a little bit better than his past. But like, it was very, very impressive. But yeah, Kamzat, the sky's the limit. I think 185 is his future. He's going to go there. He's going to be a middleweighter for the rest of his life. He's just way too big to be a welterweight. The thing is, he blew his shot with this too. It's not even about making the weight. He blew his shot at being a welterweight champion because a couple of months ago, after he beat Gilbert Burns, which I still to this day think Gilbert Burns beat him, unpopular opinion. But a lot of people were like, okay, well, sweet, we're going to get Usman and we're going to get Kamzat. Well, holy shit, life changes quickly in like 3 months because obviously Usman losing the title to Rocky Edwards, and now you've got Kamzat who can't make weight. Well, we're never going to get that fight now. Like, that's just, life comes at you quick. That's not happening. So now the UFC has to like push Kamzat into that 185 category. And I mean, with guys like Rockhold retiring, and guys like that division's kind of taken a little bit of a hit. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt to insert new blood with Kamzat in there at 185. And you just saw what he did to a 100 and probably 90-pound Kevin Holland. I mean, sheesh, sky's the limit for this guy. Am I wrong?
No, man, I agree totally. He's a scary dude.
Would not want to get into a goddamn octagon or any kind of personal altercation with him.
Yeah.
Darren Till, though, still a bitch, still getting knocked out behind the scenes. So that's fun. All right. So, and the other part of this card that was really cool, we had the first ever finish by liver up kick. How damn impressive was Irene Aldina in that situation?
That was so weird. I honestly didn't even know what happened, to be honest, until I saw the replay. I wasn't sure if like she broke her rib or something. And then it was confusing until they played it back. But yeah, super impressive. That's wild.
Well, and it's crazy because Macy Chason was doing a phenomenal job after she kind of got tagged a little bit. Irene's she's a very huge up and coming prospect. A lot of people have a lot of faith in her. She's from Mexico. She's very marketable. She's a good looking girl, very very well rounded too. Her striking against Chason in that first round, you could tell Macy was not having any of that shit. She was not having fun at all, and so she sprawled for that takedown. And when she got that takedown, it was like immediately top position, and Macy was landing some nasty ground and pound. And then the horn rang. We got round 2, and same thing. Macy got tagged a couple of times. I think she recognized that, fuck, I got to shoot on this girl. If I can shoot, I can take her down, and I have good ground game. And she did good for about 3 minutes. She stood up and went for that. And a lot of fighters will see it. Well, she went up, went for that big strike, and the second she missed, I don't know how fast that Aldana was able to get that liver kick up, but it was so goddamn fast, man. I was like, oh shit. Did Chason just break a rib on? I thought she broke a rib on her like shin as she was coming down. I was like, oh, she's fucked up. And then I watched the
Yeah.
replay. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, it
Like,
was weird. It was happening so fast.
I was like, and again, maybe I was just wrong by the angle, but when she like Chason went down for that elbow, I thought she torqued on the shin and for sure either popped out some ribs or like winded herself in the diaphragm. Like I just didn't know what happened. And then the replay shows, and you can literally see her liver just like fluttering. And I'm like, oh my God, that's awful. But yeah, I mean, Chason has nothing to take it. I think Chason had a really good performance.
Yeah.
Macy's really good at what she does. She'll be back. Irene Aldina is going to continue to climb. And again, like I said, very extremely marketable. And she trains with Kelvin Gastelum and all that crew. So I mean, she's going to have a huge backing of strong supporters. That's the one name I haven't heard in a while, Kelvin Gastelum.
Yeah.
Jeez, I wish she would come back. But anyways, yeah, that was an amazing finish. For this next segment, though, Cole's going to disappear for a couple of seconds. I'm going to talk about this because this is segment 2. This is Palace Athena's kind of review, if you will. And we're going to have some news coming up in the boxing world, and I'm going to bring Cole back on for that. But this, of course, is segment 2. This is a PAWFC 2 review, and this is brought to you by Blue Collar Media Group and, of course, our good friends at Sandman Boxing System. Now, if you didn't get the chance to watch it, it was an absolutely amazing event, start to finish. The weigh-ins, every girl made weight. The VIP section with Chris Cyborg and Felicia Spencer was very well attended. It was a ton of fun. But the big news was Melissa Croden becoming the new bantamweight PAWFC queen, man. And she did it in very convincing fashion. She is a kickboxer. And she did some of the best angling work that I have ever seen out of a kickboxer ever. Gave Cornelia Holm nothing. And I will also say this. Shout out to Cornelia Holm, who took a fight on 2 weeks' notice, came all the way from Sweden to Calgary, Alberta, to make sure that she could fight for the title. She is a genuine badass. Her camp was amazing. While I was doing an interview with the Rod Peterson show, shout out to Roddy. Thank you for having us again. She was actually peeking in the background because I had brought the Palace Athena's title with me, the one that she was fighting for. And she just was like, oh, very beautiful. That's a very beautiful title. And I was like, yeah, no, that's what you're fighting for during this interview. So, yeah, no, shout out to Cornelia. She's a badass. And again, we had her on the podcast. She is a very humble human being. She calls herself the Swedish Ronda. She looks like her. It's kind of crazy. I didn't want to believe it. And then I saw her backstage getting all done up. And I was like, oh, wow, you do look like Ronda Rousey. It's kind of crazy. But shout out Melissa Croden. Scare was in her name, man. Some of the most violent kicks, some of the most malicious beat down with the fist that I've seen in a long time. Girl let him fly, let him buck, and she became the bantamweight PAWFC queen. Now, in our co-main event, we had some controversy. Yeah, if you watched, you'll understand what I mean. That fight between Anastasia Nikolakakos and Alessandria Fiera was a fight, man. And Nikolakakos looked so well-rounded. But there was a couple of instances that caused the Fiera camp to be very, very, very upset. Now, Nikola Kakos in the first round had top position. She looked like she was trying to throw an elbow. Now, the more that I've watched this, she had top mount. Looks like, typically if you're on top mount, your arm's here, and you're trying to throw in a couple of punches. Well, she slipped, and there was a headbutt that happened. And so essentially, most times, they'll either give the fighter a ton of time, and that's what they did with Fiera's camp. They let her go to the side, kind of take that breather, make sure she's okay. Headbutts fucking suck. I mean, we know that. And Anastasia was very apologetic in that first situation. Now, fast forward to round 2. Alessandra Fiera's up against the cage. She's got Nikola Kakos in a standing guillotine, and it is tight. If you go back and watch the replay on Fight TV, you'll understand what I mean. It was very, very tight. And the second that it looked like Nikola Kakos might be fading, you could see Fiera say something to her corner, and her corner got real upset, like super worked up. This is the second time now in the fight. And they're like, hey. And they're trying to get the officials, respect it and trying to tell them, like, hey, something's going on. Well, we find out that whether or not it happened. I've watched replay. There's no really good angle of it to see what happened, but apparently Nikola Kakos had her hands kind of divoted in her ribs while she was in the guillotine position. Now, from what I understand, it's not illegal. You can press off against the cage. It'd be the same as, the way I took it is it'd be the same as if you were like pushing against her body to try to push your body out, right? And I could see that being a thing, but they were saying her hands were like digging into her ribs. Now I've checked the rule book. There's something that says you can't do that. I mean, it's some dirty tactic fighting, but hey, if it works, it works. But anyways, the round ends. We get into round 3. A very honest round. Round 4 comes around, and Nikola Kakos takes top mount, and she again probably shot about 6 times and had 6 successful takedowns. So in my scorecard world, she had been winning the fight, and our announcers had kind of agreed as well. Ryan and Felicia, we all kind of agreed that that was the situation. Well, while she was on top, she kind of slid over and went to go kind of assume a crucifix position. And when she went over, Nikola Keiko slipped out and hit Fierro with a legal knee strike while she was down, essentially moving from that crucifix, sliding down and catching Fierro in the top mount, which the ref then called off the fight. So we thought it was going to be the Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling situation where, of course, Peter Yan needed down opponent. Aljamain Sterling became the champion, and that was that. Well, that's not what we got. What we got was a bunch of yelling and commotion and craziness with Fierro's camp and the refs and all that other stuff. We're trying to figure it out. We had the commission trying to figure it out too, what was going on. And in the meantime, Ryan and I, because Felicia had gone to go do the interview, Ryan and I still had our headphones on, so we couldn't hear anything that was going on. So we're like on the fly trying to grab interviews from like serious Andy Strickland, who is the official, like Don Andrews, who's the ringside announcer, introducing the fighters. We're like, hey, can somebody please help us? Like, we have no goddamn idea what's going on. And we're the ones who are talking over pay-per-view that's being broadcasted internationally. And we had no idea what was going on. And we just kind of assumed that it would be the Peter Yan situation where Alessandra Fierro was going to win the title because of an illegal knee strike. Well, fast forward. We get the commission verdict. Now, the way that it works, and I know that Fierro's camp was fighting this. Now, the way that it works is after the 3rd round. Now, what happens is if an illegal strike happens and they have to waive off the fight, it goes into the hands of the scorecards. And I was like, okay. So Ryan and I thought immediately, we're like, okay, well, Anastasia has more takedowns. She's been the better fighter of the two. There's a large chance that she's going to win this fight. And when the scorecards got read, it was, I believe it was 48-47 in favor of Nikola Kakos. And I was like, hey, that makes sense. She's had a couple of amazing takedowns, some really good shoots, some really good groundwork, explosive, very quick. And Fierro looked like she was having some trouble trying to catch up with that. But like I said, Fierro had the guillotine at the end of the round. So it was kind of a wash at that point. But we got into it. And honestly, as soon as we heard the judges' scorecards, we're like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. The confusing part of all this is that the doctor or the ref called off the fight because Fierro couldn't continue. And then afterwards, he deducted Nikola Kakos a point. And at that point, we were all like, the hell is happening? Like we're trying to figure out ourselves as announcers, what is going on in this fight? And then we find out that the -1 point gave her the 48-47 instead of her being the winner at 49-47. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, it really didn't make a lick of a difference, but like, why are you deducting her a point even though you called the fight off? So we were all confused. The poor commission had to figure this out. Of course, Fierro's corner's hot. Like they're pissed. And I mean, rightfully so. Like a down opponent, especially when you're coming all the way from Brazil. Like they came a long way for this title fight. So, of course, they were a little upset with what happened. From what I understand, they had protested or were protesting the decision by the Calgary Athletic Commission. So we'll find out, I'm sure, in due time what happens there. I can guarantee I have talked to Clayton Blitzky, the owner of PAWFC, and I can tell you right now, that's a rematch that's going to happen. We don't know when and where, but it is going to happen because it was so full of controversy. It was absolutely insane. Again, if you hadn't watched the fight, make sure to go to Fight TV. You can still check it out for a discounted price, which is awesome. You'll get to see my ugly mug, and you'll get to hear my wonderful, lovely voice, face for radio. That's what I've always said. So you get to check that out. It was awesome. And then, of course, somebody who didn't need any kind of finish or performance, Maria Favela from Mexico, ladies and gentlemen. What a performance. I mean, this woman hit, I want to say, punch wise, kick wise, strike wise, I think she probably hit a good amount of 100 plus strikes to about 12. In the first round, she shattered her hand, which was crazy because the amount of power punches she was still throwing with a jacked up hand was nuts. She probably like I said, outlanded her opponent probably 112 to 12. Like, it wasn't even close. Just absolutely pure domination. I have watched this sport and I have covered this sport for a very long time, being a fan of it for probably 20 years, covering it for 15, watching it for religiously for 15, covering it for the past 3. Now, I will tell you, I have never seen somebody throw more power punches without gasping for breath. Not one subtle hint of like a big, like even just a big nose breath, an open mouth breath, nothing. This girl is a killer, man. So look out. That's a name that should stick out to you for quite some time. Maria Favela from Mexico. Her English is tremendous as well. I hope to have her on the podcast someday. I'm telling you, man, this chick's badass, and she is going to make a big old name for herself. It was crazy. I've never seen somebody hit that hard and not breathe. But just getting a recap into it, it was an amazing event yet again. Everything was top to bottom professional all throughout. And like I said, every girl made weight. There's not many very cards these days where people, there might be the odd time that somebody misses weight, but there was nobody that made weight. The title fights were amazing. The competition was amazing. The amateur bouts, they gave it all they got to, and they were displayed front and center, which was absolutely amazing. Clayton and Jenica did an absolutely unbelievable job of just hospitality by having us at the Hyatt Regency in Calgary. It's an absolutely unbelievably beautiful hotel. It was great. Everything about it was great. The venue at Winsport was amazing too. The Olympics happened over there, so I got to do a lot of like history on that, which was really, really cool. And getting to experience that was first class. Like, I mean, the facility, the people who did the editing for the video shoots and all of that stuff, the behind the scenes stuff was tremendous. Larry, the producer, he had breakfast with us on the day of the fight and was like, "This is what's going to happen. This is what we're doing." Bang, 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 bang. And it was just like, all right, we're in one. This is going to be a ton of fun. So I do have to give them a ton of love. And again, behind the scenes, everything was amazing. And even afterwards, I mean, Clayton's been in contact with me. Jenica's been in contact. And of course, we'll always want to be your home for PAWFC news. We love that crew. And it was a ton of fun in that regards. Now, with that being said, let's get into the news side of things. And I'm going to bring back my co-host, Cole. Thank you for waiting in the wins. There was a lot of shit that went on. So I thought I had to recap it as best I possibly could. Getting into the news, man, we're going to talk a little boxing because this is your world. And this is a world that I've now started to live in a little bit more. As we all know, Jake Paul was supposed to take on I want to say game opponent, Hassan. I do want to say he was a game opponent. I think he was ready for the fight. Training partner of Jake Paul's didn't happen. Got canceled. And now we got Anderson goddamn Silva. We got the Spider taking on Jake Paul. It is confirmed. They've had now 2 days of press, which usually tells me this is all systems a go. I know I had the question on here, does this fight actually happen? But after watching the press conference today, it's happening, Cole. What the fuck do you think, buddy?
I love it. I do. I think I don't know. Obviously, it's a love-hate thing. You're either like love what Jake is doing or you hate it. Nobody's really ever on the fence. I love it. I love what he's doing. I think he's and it's awesome that he's gonna fight somebody who has boxing skill. Finally, and even though Anderson's like way past his prime, he's still knocking out Tito. He just fought
Julio Chavez, man.
Yeah, Chavez, a boxing legend who obviously is known for not training hard and being kind of lazy, but still, that's crazy. That's insane. So this Paul's got to fight. So and I'm rooting for Silva. I would hate to see my boy lose to Jake Paul.
Julio Chavez, I will give a ton of credit to, does have 47 wins on the resume. And the fact that Anderson Silva was able to come in there in his debut and beat a boxer is fucking impressive. I mean, we know Anderson Silva takes everything he does seriously. And obviously, again, near the tail end of his career, he got put against some like stiff competition in the UFC with Izzy and Uriah Hall. And it was like, all right, these guys are guys that are like what Anderson was 10 years ago. Yeah. So the fact that he's been able to step into the boxing ring and do things properly, and fuck yeah, knocking out Tito Ortiz in 47 seconds. Tito Ortiz is a bag of shit. But nonetheless, Anderson Silva shut him up and was like, yo, what the fuck are we doing here? And has been waiting for a very game opponent for a long time. Now, I know that Jake Paul, once the Hassan fight was canceled, was immediately looking for somebody and said, we have somebody in place. And the fact that it's Anderson Silva breathes amazingly huge fresh air into me to watch Jake Paul fight. Now, everybody will say, okay, well, Jake Paul's never fought this person. He's never fought big name competition. Well, anybody that he's faced so far, he's knocked the fuck out. So we got to respect that. Like, I mean, again, people like Ben Askren dove and took the money. You think this guy was going to take that? Ben Askren's obviously, first and foremost, not a goddamn boxer. He's an elite wrestler. So let's put them in a ring and let them wrestle. Let's see what happens. It's a completely different situation. But Ben Askren got the bag, man, but got beat the fuck up. I mean, and Jake Paul's footwork has consistently gotten better. Like, if you watch his training camps, and I hate admitting this because I don't want to be a Jake Paul fan. I want him to be a YouTuber. But the more that I watch him, man, I'm impressed, dude.
And he's putting in the work. You know, like he legitimately wants to be a boxing champion. I highly doubt it's ever going to happen, but he's working like he should be. So there's like, it's inevitable that he's going to get better. So it's going to be cool to see. And I think I really don't want Paul to win. But I think the winner of this lines up perfectly to box Nate Diaz. Doesn't matter which one wins. It'll be a huge fight, I bet.
We talked about that at the start of the podcast, and I agree. I think this is like the Nate Diaz fight. Like, whoever wins this gets to fight Nate. Nate is no longer employed by the UFC. You know that if he gets to do the one thing he fucking loves, which is boxing, you know that if he gets a chance to get in there, and I mean, he works with Freddie Roach, who's one of the best boxing coaches of all time. I mean, Nate Diaz has some killers in his brother Nick is incredible at boxing. Like, you watch a Diaz fight from their prime, their boxing is elite. Like, it is untouchable. They're angling their hands. It's incredible. That's what won Nick a Strikeforce title, was how good his fucking hands were. But realistically, I mean, I agree with you. I think whoever wins this fight sets that up perfectly. I call this the celebrity era of boxing, if you will, because it's just really now guys calling out guys who are former guys. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but it's brought boxing into the forefront again, because for a little while there, boxing was relying on Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao to be their main draws. I mean, even Tyson Fury, like, those were the names that were really, really built on boxing. And if they weren't fighting, no one really seemed to give a shit. So,
and I think that's boxing's fault, you know, like Jake Paul has to fight UFC fighters because nobody knows boxers. Nobody that's not going to sell, because boxing promotion sucks and it's so crooked and they're whatever that nobody knows who they are. So how are they going to make millions of dollars? He has to fight UFC fighters because they have way bigger names than boxers do, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, the biggest promoter of all time, Don King, whether we like to admit it or not, tried to start his own promotion up, and it fucking failed miserably. There was nobody there, man. And I was like, this is Don King. And for you and I growing up, that's Mike Tyson's boy.
Yeah.
Like, how did Don King fumble all this? And then obviously we know Don King's history isn't the greatest, but still, I thought if he was running a promotion, that's somebody who could really bring boxing back to a level that we haven't seen in a really long time, because it's Don fucking King. Like, this man is a pioneer goat of boxing. And again, I watched his event and I was just like, this is piss poor quality. Secondly, you have nobody in attendance, which sucks because, again, Don King. But I mean, there's guys that are trying to do their promotions. Now, with Nate doing Real Fight Incorporated, he kind of did what McGregor did. He's kind of got his own like thing now, like McGregor Promotions when it opened up, when he took on Mayweather. I mean, he had to have some kind of backing because the UFC kind of backed him, but he needed to have his own brand. And I think that's what Nate is doing, is building up his own brand with Real Fight Incorporated. Like, yes, of course, it's going to be MMA based, as he said, but now he can fall back on something and be like, I was training at Real Fight Incorporated. I'm a real boxer now. Like, he's got that fallback that Conor had, but he doesn't have the backing of Dana White. Like it. I don't know if Dana will ever have his back in this. I fucking doubt it. No. But I mean, you've seen it. Like Jorge Masvidal has his own promotion. He's got something that he can fall back on. I mean, guys are doing it more and more now. But they're all learning a very hard lesson that it's very fucking hard to run your own promotion. And that's why Dana's been doing this for so long, because he understands the fight game. I mean, I was hoping when I watched booking and boxing, and I agree with you, that these guys keep doing these fights. I mean, we just saw this past weekend KSI fight, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? That I'm watching YouTubers take over the boxing world, but they're selling. And I will give them a ton of props. We're watching. I mean, we had 2 former NFL Pro Bowl running backs fight each other in the boxing. Le'Veon Bell and Adrian Peterson. Like, what the fuck is happening? And I sat there to myself. I'm like, over this weekend, I had an epiphany. I'm like, wow, fuck. These guys are doing it because they're selling seats, man. And people want to see that. It doesn't necessarily have to be the way of old where you're promoting Mike Tyson. That's it. Like you're only promoting Lennox Lewis and Floyd Mayweather, and that's fucking it. Now these guys know that, hey, I have a camera in front of me and I have a digital platform in front of me. I can do anything.
And honestly, like, it's like since the beginning of time, you get 2 people in front of each other. They agreed to a fight. You're going to draw a crowd. It doesn't matter who it is. You go to the bar, you go the schoolyard, there's a circle around 2 people fighting. And then from the gladiators to now, you got to give respect to people that agree, sign that contract, get in the ring. You got to respect it.
And times are fucking different, man. Like, and I agree with you. We now have this thing where it's a social media age where people can call each other out. Like right now, like if I wanted to fight Cole and said, hey, let's fucking do this, Cole and I could set something up right now, but that's not going to happen because he'd whoop my ass. So
Andrew, my opponent did pull out.
Let me drink my creatine, and that's what's in here. Just in case anybody was wondering, this is creatine, Dave. I think 100 of me doing it and some BCAAs, but I don't think it's going to, help my boxing anymore. It's, it's very bad. It's very weak, but no, I mean, realistically, but that's how it works now. And people that get upset about Jake Paul calling people out, or even Logan Paul, I mean, fuck, man, it's working for them. Logan Paul's a WWE superstar and he's fucking good in there. And it's like, you want to hate these guys, but get with the fucking times because they're making it work. So nonetheless, I'm excited to watch this fight. I'm traveling to wherever you are. We're watching this fight. It's happening. It's not, without a fucking doubt. I'm going to try to also find, for our listeners that are watching, this is the last podcast we're doing in season 2. We're still going to be active on socials. Don't get me wrong. I'm always going to share the most recent news. But what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to find out Anderson's walkout shirts. And I think for that event, I would love to do a walkout shirt giveaway. And Cole and I will stream some of it. We'll do the giveaway live. And I think that's probably the best call for action. So we're definitely going to link up for that. Speaking of social media, holy shit, has this been fun. Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury have been going at it for literally the last 2 weeks. And sign me the fuck up for all of this. You've got Tyson Fury on social media calling Anthony Joshua the biggest dumbass he's ever met in his entire life. And I'm like, for Tyson Fury to say that, let's not forget a month ago, the last fight that Tyson Fury has, he says he's done. He's retired. This is it. He's not doing it anymore. His love for boxing is still there, but he's made more money than he fucking cares to count. Doesn't, want to keep doing the weight cuts and all that other stuff. And then Anthony Joshua pokes the fucking bear after he loses to Usyk and says that he wants to fight Tyson Fury because Tyson Fury is a big gypsy bitch. And I'm like, You just lost to Usyk, who I think, honestly, Fury walks circles around. It's a good fight, but Fury probably walks circles around both of them. And for years, we have been asking for Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. Now, I will ask you straight up, is this fight going to happen?
I don't know if it's gonna happen. It's hard to say with boxing, but I want it to happen, and I think Fury will crush Joshua. If Joshua gets tired from Usyk, Fury has the same cardio Usyk does, except for he's huge.
6'9".
So he's gonna. I think he'll stop Joshua because Joshua will be gassed by the 6th, 7th round, and Fury won't be gassed, and Fury will dominate him.
Anthony Joshua looks so bad in that fight against Usyk. Now, I don't know if it's lack of preparation. His footwork, I give Anthony Joshua a ton of credit usually, but his footwork was sloppy. His combinations were fucking terrible. I thought Usyk was able to just like beat the shit out of him at ease, man. It wasn't even like it was a difficult fight for Usyk. And
No.
and to be honest, it was the post fight for me. I'm like, what the fuck is Anthony Joshua doing? He takes the mic from Usyk and then starts going off about how he's better than Usyk, and yeah, maybe he had a bad day, but that doesn't make up for like the loss of this fight. I'm like, the fuck is happening with Anthony Joshua? Like, that's the first time I thought CTE was for real with Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
It was bad for the sport.
Yeah, he's probably embarrassed. I mean, yeah, he's an idiot. He's not a warrior, He's just he's a pretty boy who had a natural gift. He was gifted. He's a talented boxer, but he just lacks what it takes to be a real champion.
And that's always going to be the difference between him and Tyson Fury. And I have a bunch of people who told me, throughout the last 2 years, well, Anthony Joshua fights Tyson Fury. Anthony Joshua could do it for sure. He could beat Deontay Wilder. I'm like, Wilder's a better opponent for Tyson Fury than Anthony Joshua is all day long. Anthony Joshua lacks the fundamentals of being a champion. Tyson Fury will always have that. And that is why Tyson Fury will retire as the best heavyweight of all time. Like, I know people will be like, well, Mike Tyson. I'm like, well, fuck, yeah, I get it. But like, Tyson Fury in this modern era has fought better fighters than what Mike Tyson got. I think that's a fair assumption. People will be like, oh, Buster Douglas beat him. I don't give a shit. Like, Mike Tyson fought, and it's a great show. If you haven't seen it yet, go on Disney Plus. I hate shouting out companies, but go on Disney Plus and watch the documentary called Mike. It's an episodic program that just details basically all of Mike Tyson's life. And even Mike Tyson will tell you, I'm not the best that ever did it in the heavyweight division. And then he gives some love to the up-and-comers. And I mean, Tyson Fury, in my eyes, is the greatest heavyweight to ever put on the boxing gloves just because of what he's been able to do with the competition being stiffer. Like, Tyson even says in the documentary, I fought tin cans to get to 32-0. Like, I fought chumps to get to where I was. And Tyson Fury, you look at the record that he's had to fight and the people that he's had to fight. Tell me I'm wrong. Am I crazy by saying that?
No, I agree. I don't like Mike Tyson has never been in my top 10. He was a freak of nature. He was he could kill. He's like Wilder.
True, very true.
When he touches you, you fall over. And whenever he had a tough fight, he lost. Whenever he had somebody who could take his punch, he lost, and that's same with Wilder, whenever he fights somebody that doesn't go down, he loses. So, I mean, I think if Fury can get that Joshua fight and get that Usyk fight, I think he needs a couple more, I think that the heavyweights back then were all fighting. They had some, they were fighting people. You look at Ali, Frazier, Foreman. You look at these guys, even Lennox.
Yep.
They fought, and Fury. He fought some tough guys, but like, I think he needs to fight a couple more champions. It would be nice for him to fight Joshua, to fight Usyk, and I think that would really solidify everything.
You've got Wilder calling him out on the sidelines again, and I get it, man. I get it. You knocked him out. You knocked him down. Of course, we all know that Deontay Wilder is the first guy to stop it. So, I mean, realistically, here's how I look at it. If he is able to win this fight or gets the fight against Joshua, which we all think is going to happen, if that fight occurs and when it occurs, I would like him to again move to Usyk. I think you'll really get to know who's the number one in the heavyweight division because Usyk looked incredible against Anthony Joshua. But I would like Usyk in the meantime to fight Wilder.
I think Wilder's. I think it sounds like he might be fighting Ruiz if he wins his fight.
Andy Ruiz, that's a good fight too.
Yeah,
Andy Ruiz, man, I fucking love this guy.
Yeah, he's. I think everyone loves him. He's
just his life, man.
Yeah, he just fought the other weekend.
He won.
Yeah, he won. He's pretty dominant in a fight that I thought he was going to lose.
Yep.
So he really impressed me a lot in that fight. Because I think Ortiz.
Yep.
Yeah, Ortiz. He's only lost to Wilder, and in those two fights he got knocked out both times, but he was winning the whole fight up until when he got knocked out.
Right.
Other than that, he never lost a fight. So I thought he was a better boxer, and I thought he was going to beat Ruiz, and Ruiz dominated him, and it was very impressive. So I think if Wilder wins this warm-up fight that he's got planned, I think it's in maybe November. If he fights Ruiz, I think that would be awesome. And then maybe the winner of that gets I don't know.
The winner of Joshua and Fury?
No, I don't. I
Usyk?
think Fury and Usyk should fight. Maybe Usyk will have a warm-up fight in the meantime with somebody, and then it's cool that there's so many heavyweights right now.
Yeah, and they're all big names. I mean, and that's the other thing. No matter who you put in there right now, there's a draw, right? Like everybody will watch. I mean, Andy Ruiz coming in at it's so cool because he's like 6 feet tall. He's like one of the smallest heavyweights, and he is committed. I said he's become a great fighter because if you watch his first fights when he first started, he was a pretty hefty guy. Like not a lot of definition, a lot of just a thicker dude, And for the past couple of years, he's just dedicated his life to fitness and grinding and becoming a better boxer. And he came into the weigh-ins and the shape he was in. I was like, holy shit, Andy Ruiz looks like a completely different dude. He just looks like he's dedicated his whole last 2 years of just into fitness and being a better fighter. And it looked it, man. He looked incredible. So again, I agree with you. The heavyweight division is locked for a very, very long time in boxing. You know what? One fighter that you and I mutually love. We're both huge Money Mayweather guys, and we will be to the day we die. I guarantee it. He will be 45 years old, and he's having another non-scored bout coming up on September 25th. Now, this is something I've been weighing on me. Are we okay with this, or is this just a guy who's just out here for more money, and now it's just a fucking joke?
I mean, I don't think a joke is the word, I think he loves boxing. He's in the gym every day. He's still training. He's still coaching people. And he loves money. So it's like he's fighting these guys in other organizations who are at the top of their organizations to see how their boxing holds up. It's mostly just for fun, I think, and he's getting paid to put on a show. I don't see the harm in that. It's not like he's sitting here like Mayweather versus McGregor and doing huge press. Most people don't even know about it. It's just small events. He's getting paid a bunch because the people putting on the events have a shit ton of money. But it's not like he's trying to promote it and make it oh, I'm back, and he's not even promoting it. He's just doing it because he loves it, and I think the way he's going about it is fine.
Yeah, and I'm okay with it too. Somebody asked me about it the other day, and I thought, you know what, this is a great talking point for Cole and I, because I mean, realistically, I have no problem with it. If you love it and you're passionate about it and you want to continue to do it, and he's doing it in a way, like, I agree with you. He's doing it in a way that you wouldn't really know who he's facing, because his last two fights, no one really knew about. Obviously, when he fought Logan Paul, it was an exhibition.
Right.
It was a money fight. It was very well advertised, but he took home $100 million. Like,
Right.
everything that man does is all money based. Don't get it wrong. He is the money man for a reason. That is why he is known as Floyd Money Mayweather. He ain't doing anything for less than $10 million. I'm telling you that right now. Business ventures, clothing companies, boxing, the money team will always be that, and he'll always continue to do that. I have no problem with it. It's like guys who play senior hockey, right? And I hate to use that analogy, but you know, some guys make it to the NHL, they do really, really well, and then at the end of their career, it's like, what's next? And some of them go and play, you know, overseas, and they play some beer league hockey, and they enjoy it, and it's for fun. It's the same thing for Floyd. Floyd's going to make the money. He's going to get paid, and he likes doing it, man. And the fact that he's 45 years old and is still able to go in there and look good. I mean, if you go watch the replay of his last fight, his fundamentals are all still there. There's no one saying that he couldn't go back to pro and absolutely dominate, because I think he could. He's just that damn good. But realistically, why? Right? Like, why tarnish my perfect record? It doesn't make any sense. I'm going to continue to make $100 million off exhibition fights where it doesn't impact anything I've ever done. And I can retire being the greatest of all time.
Mm-hmm. And it's nice because, like, he's doing like 6-rounders, 8-rounders, against non-boxers who are, like, if you look at kickboxing or MMA, the output's way less.
Right.
You know, it's like, so he's doing less work, and he's just getting in there, having fun against pretty much glorified sparring is what he's doing, and he's getting paid for it. So, yeah, I mean, keep doing it. If anyone in the world got asked to go do a sparring match for $1 million, they would say yes. You know, so
I just alluded to that. I would definitely take a punch in the face for about $1 million.
Right. And you can like obviously I have a biased opinion because I love Floyd. You know, he's been my boy for a long time.
Same.
But I mean, like, he built himself. You know, he branded himself, he built himself, and he went 50-0. So he is the person he is for a reason, and he can do whatever he wants with that. Right.
I always think about that too. I'm like, could you imagine being fucking perfect in something? Like, think about how hard that is. Like, that is an incredible accomplishment. You think about football teams. We think about back in the day, the New England Patriots, when they went all the way to the Super Bowl being undefeated, right? Like, that's fucking crazy. And then they lost. Floyd's never done that. He's never lost. That is why, in my eyes, he is the greatest athlete of all time. And people have always argued that with me. They're like, oh, he didn't fight anybody. Go look at his record. Go look at his record and tell me he hasn't fought anybody. He has fought the who's who of his division and has walked them. You know, like, it's not even close. People always like, oh, the Manny Pacquiao fight, walked Manny Pacquiao. It wasn't even close. He put him in a defensive trap and then beat the shit out of him. McGregor, everybody's like, oh, McGregor won the fight. Fucking when? Tell me when McGregor won the fight, because I believe he got knocked out. Got knocked out. So, again, it's just one of those things. But again, he is, to me, the greatest athlete of all time, because he's going to retire undefeated, and he's going to continue to be businessman, make the money, and the stuff that he does after. And a lot of people always make fun of him, but the stuff that he does outside of the arena is crazy, because the man literally donates amongst millions of dollars to, like, inner city places that need it badly. He's funded different programs for kids to come box where they can't afford to do such things. He takes people off the streets and puts them in his money camps, man. Like, he's just such a good human being. Now, people are like, oh, well, we've heard this about him and this speculation. Hear all you want, man. He does do good shit. And so, maybe I'm a homer, and maybe you are too, with our bias on Floyd, and I'm sure people will hate him. That's cool, man. We know 50 Cent ain't a fan. That's for damn sure. Told him to read a coloring book one time. I'll never forget that as long as I live. Didn't he tell him to read Dr. Seuss's Cat in the Hat, and then he was going to donate $75,000 or some shit?
Yeah.
One of the greatest call outs of all time. That is what, I'm not going to lie to you. That's a solid call out by 50.
100%.
But yeah, man, no, this is that's going to wrap things up for us. This is season 2 in the books. We're going to take probably a good month or 2 off here. We're going to come back, refocus, recharge. We're going to line up guests in this time off for you guys. I can confirm 2 Invicta fighters that are going to be joining us, which is awesome. I got them lined up. They're going into camps. I've got some PAWFC stuff we're going to do. Obviously, I've got some UFC fighters and some Bellator fighters this time around, which is awesome. And hopefully I can attend a couple of their events in the upcoming year. But yeah, nonetheless, we're going to take 2 months off. Don't be alarmed. We're still going to be posting, like I said, the socials and all that other stuff. And of course, we thank you guys so much for joining us as always. But before we sign out, it kind of breaks my heart to have to do this because we were so close in age. It's actually goddamn crazy. We lost one of the best human beings in MMA who just also happened to be Canadian. Elias Theodoro passed away, a stage 4 cancer, and honestly didn't tell anybody about it, really. And he's such a selfless guy that it totally makes a ton of sense the way that he did things and the way that he went about things. I have an incredible story about him, and I guess I'll get right into it. Back when Charmaine Tweet was still fighting, she was fighting for I believe she was fighting Cyborg for the Invicta Women's title, which was a huge thing for us Canadians, and especially for us Saskatchewan folks, because Char is from here, for those that don't know. And so we had a great camp, and Elias actually had came down to watch her. They sparred together, they trained together. The Canadian MMA community is very close. So he was down watching the fights with us, and she lost, unfortunately. And I just remember him texting her and reaching out to her right away, telling her, keep your head up, keep battling forward, and don't ever stop fighting. Keep going, girl. You got this. You're going to be a great representative for Canada. And then we went to Gabos, and then I saw a complete 360 of this man, and it was like, who the hell is this dude? So there's a bachelorette party, and this photo went on to be pretty famous in Gabos history, but there's a bachelorette party, and Elias is a good-looking dude. He was a fucking stud. Looked, had the flow, girls were digging it. Pretty boy. He was also, people might not know this, but he was on the cover of romance novels. So, I mean, the guy is a good-looking dude. Admit it or you can admit it. But there's a photo of him, and these girls were like, oh, my gosh, can we get a photo with you? He's like, how about we do something a little crazy? And he's like, I'm like, oh, shit, here we go. This isn't going to be good. So one girl goes on one shoulder, and one girl goes on the other, and he's just walking around this bar with these 2 girls on his shoulders. Security's like, hey, man, you can't do that. They got to come down. And he's like, do you know who I am? And it was the greatest, do you know who I am? Because not one person in there, really follows MMA the way I did. I'm like, all right, well, he just won the Ultimate Fighter Canada. So if you want to pick a fight with him, sure, go ahead. And so anyways, he puts these girls down, and he comes up to me. He's like, is Regina always this crazy? Because I could live here. And I was like, yeah, well, it's always that crazy, my friend. You're always welcome. But just an outstanding human being, really put, he was one of the major factors into why medical marijuana has been passed now into, big boxing commissions, big athletic commissions. The UFC has now made it that it's not illegal. And he was a huge advocate for pushing that, for not even just the recovery process, but the mental health aspect of things too. And then you hear how, his life was, and just, again, a tremendous human being, and an amazing representative for Canadian mixed martial arts. And just a kind human, and we lost an amazing human being. Cole, his Ultimate Fighter Canada run, what a journey.
Yeah, he was, and I had the experience of my older brother was a good friend of his. He was actually his driver one night, and they became really good friends. So in Saskatoon, I got to meet him and hang out with him one night, and get to know him a little bit. And like you said, just the nicest person ever. Just the most down to earth. Just likes to have fun, wants to have a good time, make people laugh. And it was just it was cool to experience that.
The man went 18-3 in his professional career. I mean, he fought just shy of a year ago and won. And it's crazy because when the announcement came out that he had stage 4 cancer, I was like, wow, that's heavy. And I mean, my mind went backtracked. I mean, usually, like, my grandmother passed away of stage 4 lung cancer. So I was like, hey, they gave her 6 months to live. She lasted 6 weeks. And I was like, holy hell. Like, was he, you never know. Like, in his last fight, did he fight not only just a fight, but was he fighting cancer at the same time? Like, you don't know because it was so quick. And again, Elias is just one of those down to earth guys that would never tell you anything. Even if he was suffering, he'd be like, yeah, I'm good, man. And it's so crappy because I was actually going to wrap up season 2 with him being on the podcast. We had talked several weeks ago about him coming on, and he was so down. He was so pumped. He actually mentioned Dane, which is kind of crazy. I mentioned being in Saskatoon, which is bananas, because I told him who you were, and he was like, yeah, I know who those guys are. So that's kind of crazy. Small world, right? And so, anyways, yeah, he was going to join on here. So I thought, we should wrap up season 2 after his passing, because again, I wanted him to be the guest that ends it. So we'll end it with saying, you can go into a Facebook right now, on his socials. They're doing a GoFundMe for just funeral expenses. It's very, very expensive stuff, helping out his family. And what I can only assure is a very, very difficult time for all of them. It's very sudden. Again, 34 years old. It hits hard, man, because we are that exact same age. So, I mean, for us, it's pretty crazy that if there's anything I can say to anybody that's watching, and I think the best way to recap all of this is, if there's, anything I've learned in this, life is very short. So make sure you get to do what you love and spend time with those that you love. And again, make sure to reach out to his GoFundMe, help out his family. It's the least you can do. $5, $10, $1. I'm sure it goes a long way to them. With that being said, that's season 2. Thank you so much for joining myself. And of course, Cole. Cole, how can people find you, my man?
Everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Come check me out. And I've been trying to figure out this Instagram algorithm. I'm going to figure it out. But so I've been posting quite a bit lately, so go check it out.
You plus hackers equals not fun.
Oh, yeah. Also, if you want to invest,
I got hit with the old investment text, and I was like, yeah, that ain't cool. So I'm glad that you got control of your Instagram, because I know people who've lost their Instagrams due to these hackers, man.
Yeah.
So be woke out there, folks.
It was a battle, man. It was a battle. I got back in. He kicked me back out. I got back in. It was nuts. It was fun, though. It was kind of fun.
On next week's episode of Criminal Minds. No, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, nonetheless, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We've set a number of views and records. I checked the analytics. We are the number 4 podcast in Canada when it comes to MMA. So that doesn't happen without you. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, we hit over 10,000 live views. We've had over 2,000 downloads. That doesn't happen without you guys supporting us and continuing to support us. And we are always going to be there for you guys. So thank you so much. Once again, we love you. And Elias, we will miss you terribly, brother. Prayers to your family. We love you so much. And like I said, make sure to do your part. Go to the GoFundMe and help out where you can. This is season 2. We will be back in a couple of months. Till then, cheers, y'all.